MSNBC host Rachel Maddow told the ladies of The View that if elected to a second term, Donald Trump would present a danger to the free press. Let's listen.
If you listen to what Trump is saying, you don't just sort of regard him as a spectacle, but you listen to what he's saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's basically portraying a future for America if he is put back in the White House in which we don't have another election after that.
That's
ever.
right.
Because the elections are all rigged, that the democratic process can't be trusted, that Congress should just work for him, the Justice Department should just work for him. That's a strongman form of government. That's not what we have.
He'd cancel the news, like the news are done.
He wants to put MSNBC on trial for treason so that he can execute us.
A sit-down conversation with actor Ben Stiller, Maddow was put in the spot by an audience member. She appeared to dodge his question about her stance in the Israel-Hamas conflict. Let's watch.
Rachel, would you consider Benjamin Netanyahu an authoritarian foreign leader?
Sit down.
Can you please answer that?
We're not here to
Would you consider Netanyahu a dangerous authoritarian foreign leader? Will you answer that? Will you stand up for the Muslim anchors at MSNBC who have been taken off the air? Will you speak for them? Will you speak up for them? What do you call a country that bombs people in a hospital? Is that fascism?
So, do you think Rachel Maddow is a hypocrite for talking about these freedom of the press issues on The View and then declining to respond to a question? Let's say that some of the questions are out of bounds. Let's say that she doesn't believe that the hospital bombing was the IDF and doesn't want to respond to that piece. What about the question about her own coworkers at MSNBC who allegedly were pulled from their hosting spots because they were the only Arab host on the show and perhaps expressed a too pro-Palestinian sympathetic view for the network?
I mean, to be honest, I assume she does think Benjamin Netanyahu is an authoritarian because she thinks every conservative person on the earth is an authoritarian. So I don't now. Her Israel-Palestine views might not be. I have no idea what they are. They might not be progressive enough for your taste. I might disagree with them. I have no idea. I presume she does. I mean, MSNBC has done a lot of critical coverage of Netanyahu for the judicial reforms and those kinds of things. So, you know, in fairness, I don't think she's been, without weighing in on exactly what's going on right now, I don't think she's been soft on him. But I was reminded, like, okay, and look, I'm not defending anything Trump's ever said or done with respect to the election, but I do gotta say it's always a bit rich because there was plenty of election denying going on MSNBC in different contexts. Chris Hayes, not to the same extent as Trump, not with an actual plan to prevent the rival from taking office, but Chris Hayes reacted to 2016 with asking questions about, well, could electors do something different? Stacey Abrams got a warm welcome on the show. Hillary Clinton.
It's
not the same thing.
I know, Robbie, but that caveat is a pretty big caveat. The step from, hey, I think somebody should do something to make sure that Hillary is the president, and saying that, which is protected speech, and that is not what Donald Trump is being tried for. And putting the wheels into motion, recruiting legislators across the country to draft fake slate of electors and get it presented to your vice president so that he can say that there's ambiguity so that the Congress can decide the president instead of the voters is a very different kind of a thing.
The 2016 election was illegitimate because Russia.
And that was terrible and dumb, and it's why a lot of the left fell out of love with her when we all really liked her during the Obama administration, and yet
we're not arguing. We're not disagreeing.
But the question to me, the bigger issue in terms of perhaps where one might feel compelled to respond, even if generally speaking you think it's a heckler, I'm just going to wait for security to take him away, is when asked about your own colleagues and how they've been treated by the network. Because it is, the implication there is, are you going to perhaps risk your own standing with the network? Are you going to say something true to defend them?
Weren't they restored? So MSNBC has taken the position that this was coincidence, and they did not take them off for this reason, and it was about some prearranged scheduling thing. I think in one case it was the person whose name we can't recall.
No, Ali Velshire was in Israel. He was the one that went to
someone was
Israel.
Perceived to... I don't know. And that Mehdi Hassan was just on vacation or something. I don't know exactly what they... Now, maybe that's... I'm not saying you should believe it. I just wanted to, say that's what they say it was.
Yeah, so the network...
It'd be pretty nuts, honestly. It would be totally nuts if MSNBC actually took off its Muslim, its Arab commentators for this reason. Aren't they supposed to? Isn't MSNBC supposed to have a progressive audience at all on foreign policy whatsoever?
Well, so what's interesting and I think kind of damning is that none of the three hosts to date have corroborated MSNBC's stance that it was all just coincidence.
Well, they haven't said anything at all.
And an accident, exactly. And if my employer was out here representing some version of events that I felt very differently about, or that I agreed with. If people were accusing, like for example, in the midst of this Daily Beast piece about our argument, like some people were like, "Oh, it was probably Robbie." I'm like, "No, of course it's not Robbie." Like,
not me.
The Hill team has been very supportive.
I would die before I interacted positively with the Daily Beast.
So, like, it was important for me to say, no, it's not Robbie, and to follow up my tweet. Like, the Hill team has been very supportive. Like, the Rising team has been very supportive. Now, if I did think that somebody was after me, then I would maybe just sit quiet and let people run with their own conclusions.
That's a good point. It's a very good point.
So, I mean, it does feel a little bit, I think, awkward for her to be put in that position. Not about some of that other stuff, I think, which are easily ignored by people in her position and given the nature of hecklers. That we should say that heckler, I believe, was also Jose Varga was involved. He has done a number of these instances where he confronts people. He's the person who's a LaRoucheite who confronts people at these events.
He was confronting AOC about Ukraine?
Yeah, I think he did. Jamal Bowman, he and his colleagues, I think there were a couple of people who made some comments at this Rachel Maddow thing.
Notable gadfly.
A notable gadfly who does at times get some interesting things on the record that are useful to understanding what's going on in the minds of folks that don't often submit to interviews, at least interviews by independent media who are unlikely just to make it a cakewalk for them.
Well, I think that does it for us for this week on Rising. Jessica Burbank and Spencer Brown will be here tomorrow to take the helm.
Also, be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss any content. And for those of you who prefer to listen while you're on the go, we are now available anywhere you listen to podcasts.
It's been our honor to report the news during this really pivotal week with a lot going on. There's a lot of good information and bad information out there, and we really thank you so much that you tune into us to get the truth and the facts from us rather than some other outlet. It really means a lot, your faith in us. Thank you.
Bye-bye.